She writes in her journal every night, always with the same pen, same chair, same soft clicking of the lamp she keeps beside her side of the bed. I never read it, not once in 27 years. But I did that night. She was in the shower. I was changing the bulb in the hallway, bent down, and saw her notebook lying half open on the bench by the bedroom door. Her usual blue leather cover folded backward, ink still wet on the top line. I never meant to look, but there it was. I think he'll go peacefully. I'll wait until the third dose and then call the ambulance. I stood there for too long. The steam from the bathroom drifted under the door like it knew something I didn't. I read the line again, then the next. He'll be wearing the navy sweater, the one he hates but I've always liked. It'll look appropriate in the photo. Not a dream, not a story, not a poem. Plan. She had written the entire thing. From the first dose of sleeping pills to the moment the paramedics would arrive and find me unresponsive, but still warm. She even described how she'd cry, how she'd say I was tired, and how he had been forgetting things lately. Forgetting. My hand didn't shake. I turned the page. There were notes, actual notes, drafts, what to say at the hospital, what to tell our daughter, what food to order for the guests. She'd even listed songs. Not ones I liked, ones she thought people expected. I was 2 pages in when the shower turned off. I closed the journal, put it back exactly where it was, walked to the kitchen, sat in the dark with the fridge humming behind me. She came out 10 minutes later, hair damp, no idea I'd read anything. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Fine," I said. She kissed my shoulder and poured herself tea. We didn't speak after that. That night I lay awake, inches from the woman I'd married, trying to match the handwriting in that book to the hands folded gently over the blanket beside me. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I opened a fresh document on my computer and titled it, Elena Postmortem Log, Entry 1, February 2nd. Elena brewed coffee the next morning, same way she always did. Too weak, 2 sugars, cinnamon sprinkled like she'd seen it once in a cafe. She smiled when she handed me the mug. I watched her fingers wrap around the handle. The same fingers that wrote my death sentence, neat and controlled, like they'd been rehearsing it for months. I said nothing, just added sugar and took the first sip without blinking. She was watching me too closely. That day, I did something I hadn't done in years. I searched for an old recorder I kept in the basement, a relic from when I used to do interviews in college. Found it in a box marked Summer '98 under the cracked gardening tools. Still worked. I tested the battery. Good enough. That night, I placed it beneath the couch cushion beside the armrest, where she liked to read, where she thought out loud sometimes, where she muttered things when she thought I wasn't listening. I pressed record when she sat down, watched her flip open the same blue journal and start writing, calm as ever. She didn't speak much that night. Just once, under her breath, "He'll sleep heavier tonight." I filed that sentence in my log. Entry 2, February 3rd. Subject: administered herbal tea. Comment suggests expected deep sleep. Possible dosage ongoing. The next morning I left early. Drove to the pharmacy across town, not the one we usually go to. I asked the pharmacist, "Can you tell if this has anything in it?" and handed over a tea bag Elena had prepped the night before. He raised a brow but took it. "It'll take a day," he said. That evening I came home to dinner already set. Her eyes sparkled like they did when she was proud of herself. She made stew. Used to be my favorite. "I thought you'd like something warm," she said. I nodded. Ate 2 full bowls. Watched her reaction more than the TV. She was waiting for something. Not words. Not thanks. A symptom. Later that night I faked sleep. I slowed my breathing, relaxed my jaw, and let my eyes flicker the way they do in light dozing. 2:08 a.m. I felt her get up. Heard the soft creak of the bedroom door. Heard the fridge. Then the tap of a glass against the counter. Something poured. Then the squeak of the bathroom faucet. When she returned, she stood over me for almost a full minute. Breathing steady. Not hesitant. Measured. I logged it in the morning. Entry 3. February 4th. Subject prepared something while presumed asleep. Surveillance inconclusive. Recorder to be moved closer. The notebook still sat beside her bed. I didn't touch it again. Not yet. I started counting everything. Steps from the kitchen to the bedroom. Seconds it took for the kettle to whistle. How long she stared at the back door after locking it. She was always careful, always in control. But patterns, no matter how subtle, reveal intent. On February 5th, I moved the recorder. This time under the dresser near her nightstand. Half covered by a torn sock she never threw out. Close enough to pick up her mumbling. I kept calm. Smiled more than usual. Asked about her day. Didn't flinch when she suggested I start napping after lunch. Just a little extra rest, you've seemed off lately. Off. That word stayed with me. I told her I'd consider it. She made me lemon tea that night. Said it helped with clarity. The pharmacist called the next day. I can't give you a full talk screen, he said. But whatever's in that tea, it's not normal. High levels of sedative herbs. Stuff that shouldn't be taken over time. Not unless you want someone permanently fogged. Can it kill? Pause. With time, maybe. Depends on weight, age, history. I was 63. Low blood pressure. History of migraines. She knew all of that. I thanked him, hung up, and labeled my entry. February 6th. Confirmation of sedative use. Long-term exposure risk. Moderate to high. Subject attempting slow deterioration. That night she didn't write. She sat on the couch, staring blankly at the turned-off TV, journal unopened. Something had changed. At 10:42 p.m., she said, maybe next week. I didn't ask what. She didn't offer. The next morning, I removed all the cameras from the house. Old security stuff, fake mostly, but she didn't know that. I made a show of it. Said it was time for a reset. That we were getting too paranoid in this house. She agreed too easily, because she wanted less eyes. But I still had the recorder. Still had the log. Still had the tea bags in a Ziploc, labeled and dated. I wasn't documenting out of fear anymore. I was building a case. February 7th was the day I knew for sure. Not suspected. Not theorized. Knew. She spent the morning on the phone, pacing slowly between the dining room and kitchen. I stood in the hallway just out of view. I'd like to confirm the policy transfer, she said, voice low. Yes, he's the sole insured. Yes, I'm the beneficiary. No changes have been made. Silence. Of course. I just wanted it clean. In writing. She didn't know I could hear her. She didn't know I'd already pulled the records last week. Policy filed under both our names. Adjusted 3 months ago. New clause. Payout doubles in the event of accidental death at home. Accidental. I wrote that word in capital letters in the log. That night I served dinner. My turn. Made pasta. Too much garlic, just how she hated it. She didn't eat much. Pushed the food around while I told an old story about our trip to Maine, the one with the broken hotel heater and the raccoon in the hallway. She laughed at the right parts. Touched my wrist once. Said she missed that version of me. The one who trusted. We cleared the dishes together. Her hands were cold. I'm going to write a little, she said, already halfway to the bedroom. Of course, I said. Once she closed the door, I stepped out onto the porch and made my first external call. My brother-in-law, Mark. Elena didn't like him. Said he was too nosy, too invasive, that he got into people's heads. He was also a retired detective. He picked up on the second ring. I didn't give him every detail, just enough. I'm not paranoid, I said. I'm preparing. Mark didn't laugh. Just said, start a backup log. Keep it somewhere off-site, and stop sleeping too deep. That night, I laid still, eyes open, until 3:11 a.m. She shifted in bed beside me. Got up once. No fridge, no glass, no water running. Just a long pause in the hallway. Then back to bed. She didn't think I noticed. I didn't move. But at 7 a.m. sharp, I opened the drawer beside my desk and placed a fresh USB inside. Labeled it, Obituary Draft, Author, Elena. Subject, still alive, and I started copying files. On February 8th, I went missing. Not officially, just enough to raise questions. Left the house before sunrise. No note, no breakfast routine, no jacket on the hook. I drove 3 towns over, left my phone in the glove box, and sat in a 24-hour diner for nearly 6 hours with only a notebook and a cold pot of coffee. I watched the clock. At 10:17 a.m., the landline at home rang. I had the old answering machine wired into my laptop. Elena's voice. Steady, but something underneath it. Not panic. Calculation. Hey, just wondering where you are. You didn't say anything this morning. Call me? An hour later, another message. Please call. You're making me nervous. By 3 p.m. Are you okay? I called the pharmacy. They said you weren't there either. That's when I knew she'd expected me to be found somewhere predictable. She wasn't worried about me. She was worried about the timeline. I returned home just after sunset. She met me at the door in a soft cardigan. Forced smile in place. Where were you? Needed space, I said. She nodded slowly. Didn't push. Her eyes darted to the clock behind me. Dinner was already on the stove. She served both plates carefully. I switched them, without a word. She didn't react, but she didn't eat either. That night, I logged. February 8th. First real breach. Subject rattled by unpredictability. Suspected tampering of food. Plate swap. Denied consumption. I went to the garage after she fell asleep and removed the camera I'd mounted under the sink. She hadn't found it. Footage confirmed. She'd stirred something into the stew while humming softly. I emailed it to Mark with the subject line. Progress. At 2:14 a.m., I woke to her standing by the window, just watching the street. The journal was in her hand. I didn't move. She turned, saw I was asleep, and walked quietly back to bed. And in that silence, something shifted. Not in her, in me. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about letting her finish her story, and making sure she didn't realize until the final chapter that the ending would be hers, not mine. On February 9th, she kissed me good morning. Her lips barely touched my cheek. There was a performance in the gesture, a softness too exact to be real. She looked into my eyes a second too long, as if trying to measure whether something inside me had shifted. It hadn't. I still played the same part. Tired, quiet, forgetful. She made tea again. Not lemon this time, something floral. Jasmine, maybe. I let it cool on the table. She didn't press. After she left for her book club, or wherever she was really going, I opened the journal again. It wasn't where she usually kept it. This time, it was zipped into a side pocket of her gym bag, tucked between a pair of gloves and a granola bar. She never takes that bag anywhere. The journal had changed. No more drafts. This time it read like an instruction manual. If he collapses in the kitchen, turn him gently onto his back. Check pulse. Wait 30 seconds before calling. Keep phone at arm's length so it sounds like you've just discovered him. Page after page, clean and calm. Not once did she write the word death. Just phrases like departure, event, transition. She was distancing herself even in language. I took photos of every page, uploaded them to a hidden folder, synced it to the cloud, sent a backup to Mark. He replied in 10 minutes. Get out. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. That night, I let her pour the tea. I pretended to drink. She watched me from behind her book. A memoir about grief, I noted. At 11:23 p.m., she wrote again. I didn't need the recorder to hear her whisper. 3 more days. 3 more. I didn't know what she meant. Not fully, but I trusted her timing. She was nothing if not meticulous. February 10th. 2 days before whatever event she had marked in her journal. I woke up before her, sat on the edge of the bed and listened to her breathe. She didn't stir. Downstairs, I brewed 2 cups of coffee. Black for me, oat milk for her. Exactly as she preferred it, controlled, routine, unthreatening. I left her cup on the counter and placed a small slip of paper underneath it. Just one line. Not yet. Then I left. Didn't take the car. Didn't bring my phone. Just walked. The kind of walk a man takes when he's preparing not to come back. I visited our old lawyer, Laura Griffin. She hadn't seen me in years. "I want to revise my will," I said without preamble. "Effective immediately, and I want it witnessed." She studied me. "Everything okay at home?" I didn't answer. We rewrote it in 30 minutes. Elena was removed entirely. Everything rerouted to a foundation, one I established that morning under Mark's guidance. Name: the Still Alive Trust. By noon, the new documents were filed. Copies sent. Digital backups secured. I got home before 2 p.m. The coffee cup was still there, untouched, but the note was gone. She was in the garden, pruning dead stems from the rosebush. February frost had already killed them, but she clipped anyway, methodical, silent. I stood at the window and watched her. She looked like a woman mourning something not yet lost. That night I didn't eat. She asked why. I said my stomach was off. She didn't insist. Instead, she made her tea and sat in the living room, watching a documentary on ancient burial rites. I listened from the hallway. One sentence stuck with me. Some cultures buried the living with the dead to keep them company in the afterlife. She turned the volume up after that. I returned to the kitchen and updated my log. February 10th. Will updated. Final contingency enacted. Subject anticipates final act. 2 days remain. I went to bed first. Left the door unlocked. Let her feel the opening. February 11th. The penultimate day. She woke before me. That alone was unusual. The bedroom smelled faintly of lavender. Not the kind she wore. The kind used in sedatives. There was breakfast waiting when I came downstairs. Eggs, toast, tea. She smiled from across the table, perfectly still. "I thought we'd have a calm day," she said. "No screens. No news. Just us." I nodded. Didn't touch the plate. Instead, I excused myself and went to the shed. Pulled out the old trunk where Ellen, my first wife, had stored the home footage. Elena never liked that trunk. Inside were years of untouched tapes, receipts, and our marriage license. I placed my phone on the top shelf and hit record. Then I sat on the workbench and spoke plainly for 12 minutes. Names, dates, what I'd found. Her journal, her behavior, the tea, the life insurance, the will. I kept my voice level. Then I said, "If this message is being played, and I'm gone, it wasn't natural." She planned it, and I let her think I didn't know. I emailed the file to Mark. Subject line: "If anything happens." Then I deleted it from the phone. When I came back inside, she had already cleared my plate. "It's okay," she said. "You'll be hungry tomorrow." That night we watched a movie. Something old and quiet. One of those black and white dramas about love and time and regret. She held my hand for the first time in weeks. I didn't pull away. At 10:47 p.m., she excused herself to the bathroom. She was gone for 17 minutes. I heard the fridge open once. Then the sound of pills rattling against glass. When she returned, she handed me a cup of water. "Hydrate," she said. I drank half. Just water. She kissed my forehead and went to bed. I stayed downstairs, logged one final line. February 11th. Last full day. Subject confident. Tone affectionate. Attempt imminent. I am awake. Then I turned off the lights and waited in the dark for morning. February 12th. The day of the event. She made pancakes. She never makes pancakes. She even lit a candle at breakfast. Said she wanted the day to feel special. I played along. Ate one bite. Told her they were perfect. She watched me chew. Smiled like something was unfolding exactly as planned. We spent the afternoon cleaning. She folded my clothes without being asked. Organized my medication drawer. Even took a few pills out and set them aside in a small dish. "For tonight," she said. That evening, she opened a bottle of wine. We drank together. She poured mine. I didn't touch it. By 8 p.m., she turned on music, soft jazz, the kind she always claimed calmed her nerves. Then she stood behind me at the armchair, resting her hands gently on my shoulders. "You've seemed tired," she whispered. Why don't you sleep early tonight? I nodded. At 9:12 p.m., I pretended to yawn. She helped me upstairs, pulled back the blanket, tucked me in. I love you, she said. I didn't say it back. Not out of spite. I wanted her to notice. Her eyes flicked once, the smallest reaction. But it was there. At 9:46 p.m., she came back into the room. Quiet steps. A clink of glass. She placed something on the nightstand. A mug. Steam rising. She stood there for almost a full minute, watching me. Then she leaned in and whispered, just barely audible, "Thank you for making this easy," and walked out. I opened my eyes when the door clicked shut, stared at the mug, didn't move. Instead, I sat up, turned on the lamp, and walked downstairs. She was in the kitchen, wiping the counter, already humming. She didn't hear me approach, only looked up when I placed something on the table between us. Her journal, the most recent entry bookmarked. He's gone, peaceful, just like I wanted. She froze. I said nothing. Then I added the flash drive beside it, every log entry, every photo, every audio file. And finally, I handed her the envelope. Mark's business card inside. Printed statement. Witnessed. Filed. Delivered. She didn't speak. Didn't cry. Just sat down. And for the first time in weeks, she looked afraid. She didn't deny it. Didn't reach for the journal. Didn't touch the flash drive. Just stared at the envelope like it was ticking. I waited in silence. Let the weight of it all settle in the room. All her drafts, her planning, her perfect little phrases meant for eulogies that never had to be written. I watched her breathe. Controlled at first, then uneven. Her voice, when it came, was small. "You don't understand." I didn't answer. She tried again. "It wasn't about you. It was about control." I felt invisible. Still, I said nothing, because nothing she could say mattered now. The story had already written itself, in her own hand, page after page, describing the end she wanted to give me. And I'd let her write it. I let her fill it with herbs and tea, and words like peaceful and departure. She thought she was building a legacy. She never realized she was building a confession. That night, I left. No shouting. No explanation. Just took the trunk of evidence, packed one bag, and drove. The house wasn't hers. It was mine. But I didn't care. Not anymore. She could keep the walls. I had the truth. By morning, Mark had the entire file in his hands. Police took over quietly. No arrests yet. Not public. But she knew. Everyone would know eventually. I didn't press charges for attempted murder. I didn't need to. Her story was already ruined, buried under the weight of her own words. She had written my obituary. But I got the final line.